What's good, everybody? Today we are looking into acupuncture because it sounds really interesting and I want to know more about it. So let's start off by getting a high-level overview of what it actually is, and then we can look into specifics. Starting off with, how does acupuncture work? What is acupuncture? How does acupuncture affect the body? All right, I'm going to look into this. I'm going to get some sweet deets and then I will be back to tell you about them. Did you miss me? I'm back with what I learned. And I learned that acupuncture is a part of the ancient practice of traditional Chinese medicine, which is TCM for short, traditional Chinese medicine. TCM believes that the body's vital energy is called qi, and it flows along these specific channels or meridians in a person's body. So everybody's got qi flowing all over the place. So if the qi is balanced, then the person will be healthy and good. And if the qi is not balanced, then you get sick. Sounds pretty simple, straightforward, right? So ways that the qi can become unbalanced is if the yin and the yang are blocked from being able to connect and being able to flow back and forth together. So one of the ways to help the yin and the yang get back together and become unblocked and interact with each other is to poke the body with needles along those specific qi points in the body. So if you can take a needle, insert it into one of those qi points, it will help to clear up the blockage and help the yin and the yang interact with each other. I'm probably grossly oversimplifying this, but this is what this article says. So apparently the body has over 2,000 acupuncture points, 2,000 different points at which you can insert a needle into the body to help with the qi. So once you put a needle into someone's body, it should be more like once you put the needle into someone's skin, because they're not going that deep. They're not even going through all the way through the skin. It sounds like they're activated by the provider's hands or through electrical stimulation. And there's something called electroacupuncture, I think, but we'll talk more about that later. So the needles are real tiny. I'll pull up a picture in a second, but they are very, very small needles. Most people don't feel it, but the way that you could tell if it's deep enough is if you feel a slight pressure or ache. That's how you know it's deep enough in your skin. A lot of people respond differently to acupuncture. Some people say it makes them feel like they have a lot of energy. Some people say it makes them feel nice and calm and relaxed. And here are several ways or things that can be done instead of acupuncture if you don't feel like acupuncture is for you. But these are all, similarly in the same vein as acupuncture. So especially cupping. I feel like cupping might be more pseudoscience than acupuncture, but I don't know. So these are other options if you would like other options. One of the reasons it is believed, this is an important word, believed, to stimulate, to actually be helpful is because it's believed that it stimulates the central nervous system and releases chemicals into the muscle, spinal cord, and brain. We're going to get into it later, but I think they are stimulating the body's dopamine release, or whatever it is that starts your body's natural healing process. Acupuncture can actually help to stimulate that and get it started when it would not otherwise have started itself. So acupuncture has actually been helpful with all of these symptoms by itself. It's been shown to improve these things without someone taking any other drugs or medication or doing any other things, and it just improves these things, which is kind of crazy. Like osteoporosis, fibromyalgia, tennis elbow, asthma. So it kind of makes sense if you think about it. If you have tennis elbow and you've had it for a long time and your body's just not figuring out how to deal with that, and then you get some acupuncture and your body's like, oh, now I remember I was supposed to start the process of healing in that elbow, and then it does it and it gets better, or it gets it helped out, I suppose. Kind of makes sense. Although, interesting tidbit, scientific studies have not fully explained how acupuncture works in the framework of Western medicine. I feel like they should have led with this. So this isn't to say that acupuncture is not real, but Western science has not been able to really explain how it actually works. So I think most people have ideas, but they don't really know exactly how yet. Anyway, so that was kind of the end of this article. So I came back and I found this article, still just looking around, poking around, getting a high level overview, you know what I mean? Exploring the science of acupuncture. So you would think Harvard, this is Harvard's publication, you think Harvard would be better about disseminating information and giving facts and having their sentences and their plot points of their article flow together. But no, you would be wrong if you thought that. Although I will say it is nice when they cite their studies and they just leave links to the actual study. It makes me happy. It does. So in this study, they identified a subset of neurons that must be present for acupuncture to trigger an anti-inflammatory response via signaling pathway. So it seems like acupuncture is just triggering an anti-inflammatory response. And that is one of the ways it's helpful. So they're doing these tests on mice, and they are trying to figure out exactly what's going on, but they realized that for some reason the acupuncture is only working on the hind limb region and it doesn't work in the abdomen. So I don't know if this is specific to mice because freaking Harvard did not explain. But so they quoted this guy who's the lead investigator of the study as saying that the study touches on one of the most fundamental questions in acupuncture. What is the neuroanatomical basis for body region or acupoint selectivity? So it sounds like acupuncture is like effective in some areas of the body and not in other areas of the body, but I don't know if they're talking about like maybe they're just trying to find out what the reason is for like the chi channels and pathways in the body and like why do needles work in some points of the body and not others. It's not clear. They were looking into something called the cytokine storm, which it sounds like this is a pretty common and well-known thing in medicine, but it's the rapid release of large quantities of cytokines, which I didn't get a chance to look into what those are, that frequently drive severe systemic inflation and can be triggered by many things. The cytokine storm is basically like inflammation out the wazoo, like a crap ton of inflammation happens. And it's a major medical problem with apparently like a 15 to 30% of people who experience the cytokine storm die, which is a lot. So they're hoping that the acupuncture can help with this because there's not a lot of drugs to actually treat this condition. I don't know if this is like a flare-up type thing or if it's a disease that people have. I probably should have looked into what exactly the cytokine storm was. Moving on, they start referencing a different study that is, they're trying to use electrical stimulation, electroacupuncture, to reduce the cytokine storm in mice. And they're trying to use the vagus nerve to signal the adrenal glands to release dopamine. And at this point I was like, what was the vagus nerve again? So I looked it up here. Vagus nerve. And I read a bit, but then I was like, wait a second. Isn't the vagus nerve controversial? So I looked up this article, resetting the hype around the vagus nerve. So according to that last article, the vagus nerve is like a big bundle of nerves in like back here that is connecting your brain, sort of your brain, not really, to most of your internal organs. It's like your brain's super highway. So it's basically just a lot of signaling things going on in this region of your like nerves. It's important. But according to this article, a lot of people feel like the vagus nerve is the key to your well-being, or your superhighway to health. So basically everybody's like, if you just take care of your vagus nerve, it will take care of your life. Or I think some people said that they think it's the physical manifestation of their soul. I'm pretty sure it said that in here somewhere. I'm not trying to make any claims, but this person seemed to think it's just a lot of wellness gurus, wellness influencers trying to hype things up. He thinks that this author thinks that the vagus nerve is real and there are genuine ways to treat medical conditions by taking care of it, but it's not as hyped up. It's not like the end all be all is what this person seems to think. Anyway, so there is controversy. Moving on. So they're trying to use electroacupuncture to stimulate the vagus nerve, or to stimulate this and trigger the vagus nerve to send signals to the adrenal glands to release dopamine. And that's how they're helping to help that cytokine storm, the large amount of inflammation. Maybe I should have actually read the studies myself, but I was really disappointed at the quality of like information dissemination that was put forward in this article, but that's just me. Anyways, moving on. At this point, I was pretty curious, like how far are acupuncture needles actually going in? Because it seems like they go in, like it seems like they would need to go in decently far to like affect something or touch the chi level or whatever, like get something going. Let's look into it. So here's kind of a cool graphic about like how big acupuncture needles actually are. So you can see the matchstick. Here's a sewing needle, like if you're using needle and thread to sew. And then here's the acupuncture needle, which is like significantly smaller than just that tiny needle, which is kind of crazy. So they're real small. They're not big old needles. They're tiny. I think earlier it said it was like the width of a human hair. So they just take that little sleeve there, line it up, give it just a quick tap of the finger on the acupoint, which here is a chart that shows some acupoints, which is, how did they figure this out? I kind of want to look into this more. How do they know where all these acupoints are? Because this has been around for like thousands of years, right? How do they know? For most people, it's not really uncomfortable to have the needle put in. You can't usually feel it. Most people describe it as a slight tingling or a dull ache. And that's how you know it's gone in far enough. If you can feel it a tiny bit, that's far enough. That's about as much as I've got. I wanted to know, like, how do they ever actually go deeper than the skin? Because it sounds like they only ever go in just like skin deep and not really more. But there are other different factors that influence like how deep the needle needs to go, like the location of your body, like what illness is being treated, your body type, and whatnot. So that's as far as I got yesterday. I'll be back later with more. I'm back, and good God, do they go deeper than skin deep. But we'll get to that. I was wondering how chi becomes unbalanced in the first place. Like, Is it because you do bad things? Is it because you got sick? Like, how does your chi become unbalanced? And then also, right after I finished recording, I watched a YouTube video by a physiotherapist, and he was talking, and it sounds like the effectiveness of like how effective acupuncture is a lot more controversial than I had thought. But let me talk about the skin deep needles first, though. So I was led here. How deep do acupuncture needles go? And this said it ranges from 0.25 inches to 2 inches, which is not shallow. 2 inches is quite deep, but that's only for deeper insertions, which are reserved for muscular regions like the back or thighs. But I was like, 0.25 inches, that's for like the face or the neck, like sensitive areas. That doesn't seem too deep. How thick is the skin actually? So I came here and looked. It turns out that your skin at the thickest point is 1.5 millimeters thick, which is as thick as 2 credit cards stacked together, which is a whole heck of a lot less than a quarter of an inch. I don't know what that text before was talking about, but it's definitely not just like hanging out in your skin. It's definitely going deeper, unless this more recent one doesn't really know what they're talking about. It says for the thinner areas in your face or whatever, it only goes 0.5 millimeters. Or this is how thick your skin is. Your skin is only 0.5 millimeters thick. So going that deep going a quarter of an inch into skin that is only this thick, which I think a quarter of an inch is like 6 millimeters. So that's like 6 times so much farther than this. Anyways, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that big of an issue, but it seemed like a little bit of an oversight in the communication on the acupuncturist's part. So like I said before, though, it does depend on what is being treated or where the needles are going in or the patient's physical build. Different things, different levels of depth for different things. But now that I know that there is controversy and that there are acupuncturists known as sham acupuncturists, I'm a little bit hesitant to be like, oh yeah, these guys know what they're talking about. I feel like maybe they're just sham acupuncturists, like posting things that they think is correct when it's not actually correct. But I don't know. We'll see. Hard to take these people at face value. Okay, so the next question I had was, how do acupuncturists locate the acupoints? How are they finding these parts in the body to stab? Which brought me here, inside the mind of an acupuncturist. That's a nice color for highlighting. Okay, so like we said before, there's meridians or channels. The body has 12 major anatomical sections that these channels kind of divide up. Each one is named for a specific internal organ that they're connected to. And here are the internal organs that all of those 12 meridians are connected to. So if you're an acupuncturist and you're looking for where to place the needle exactly, first of all, you have to identify which meridian is sick. Is it the spleen meridian? Is it the stomach meridian? Is it the bladder? Which one is actually sick? And then you have to identify the meridian that goes along with that meridian. So here's a handy chart. So if your lung is sick, then you would check these other meridians to see how they are doing. Spleen, bladder, large intestine. Each one is balanced by 5 other meridians. So if one of these is out of balance, it means that there is something going wrong with one of the other ones, and you need to check and figure out which one it is so that you can balance them. And then you need to choose your acupuncture points. So like if you knew that the lung was sick and there was a problem with the liver, you would need to target an acupoint that was going to help out with the liver. This picture is not very good. Anyways, that was pretty much all I found from this text. So I moved on to this one, accuracy and precision in acupuncture point location. So this study is basically just looking into how accurate acupuncturists are when they are like examining a patient and like actually sticking the needles in. How accurate are they at actually getting the acupoints when they're sticking needles in? That's what this publication is examining. So according to this study, there is considerable variation in being able to like find acupoints among the qualified medical acupuncturists. So these aren't just people who are certified. They have actually been given like medical license to be acupuncturists. So these people should know what they're doing in theory, but there was a lot of variation in like where they were putting the needles. So which led me to this. The directional method was found to be very inaccurate and imprecise in all studies, which made me think, what is the directional method? So I looked it up and I couldn't really find it but I did find that there is another common method called the proportional method. So I looked up the directional method explained in acupuncture and I still couldn't find it, but it did bring me to this article, a comparison between directional and proportional methods in locating acupuncture points. And here, I don't know, they're talking about other stuff that happened in the study, but there's this one line at the bottom The directional method is likely less dependable in locating acupoints than the proportional method. So it seems like the directional method is not a great idea and the proportional method is better, but once again, I couldn't really find out a definition of either, which is a little frustrating. So I kind of gave up on that direction, and I was wondering how acupuncture was originally developed way back when, because it's like, how did they find this out? Who figured out, oh, if I just stick a needle in this person's meridian, then the other one will be balanced out? Like, how? I looked it up and it brought me here, acupuncture history. And I learned that nobody knows. No, so it's been around for like a long time. People think that it might have been around for as long as 6,000 BCE because there was like long sharp bones and sharpened stones found in like with people. They don't know for a fact that these things were used in acupuncture. They could have been used in like lancing abscesses or doing surgery, but it's possible. And then this guy, Otzi, the Iceman, who died in 3300 BCE. The glacier melted and they found him, and he had tattoos that were like lines drawn along the meridians, which seems to indicate that they knew what meridians were, at least at that point. So that was a long time ago, but it doesn't explain, nobody knows exactly how he knew to put these lines on the meridians or like what the technology was at that point. So the only real like concrete evidence we have about acupuncture procedures is from this guy's Classic of Internal Medicine, dating around 100 BCE. So still kind of a long time ago, but at this point it was already pretty well developed and documented. So we don't really know how it started, who figured it out. So just to check if anyone else had any information, I went here, a brief history of acupuncture. Did I learn anything else from this extract? Yeah, so this one is kind of agreeing with that other one. 6,000 BCE, interpreted as instruments for acupuncture treatment, but they may have simply been used as surgical instruments for drawing blood or lancing abscesses. So this one's kind of agreeing with the other one. All right, so moving on. Is acupuncture effective? Is it does it actually work? Because I guess there's controversy. Let's look at this one, effectiveness and safety. So according to this, in 2018, there was a study with a lot of participants, 8,000, showed that acupuncture was more effective than no treatment for back or neck pain. And it also showed that acupuncture was more effective than sham acupuncture. The difference between acupuncture and no treatment was greater than the difference between acupuncture and sham acupuncture, which I feel like right there makes me feel like it's legitimate. Like if acupuncture by itself is better than no treatment and it's better than sham acupuncture, it has to be at least something like that kind of rules out placebo, right? But then I was like, why are they including sham acupuncture in these like medical texts? What is going on? Why are they calling it this? What is this? So I looked it up and that brought me here. Sham acupuncture is not just placebo. So it turns out that sham acupuncture is not like con artists, or it's not like people who aren't really trained and who are kind of just sticking needles in people left and right without knowing what they're doing. Sham acupuncture is a way to kind of control for placebo whenever they're testing these things. It has to be morphologically similar to Verum acupuncture, and Verum in this context is referring to actual traditional acupuncture for blinding purposes. So they're using this sham acupuncture to blind people to, like, are they getting the actual treatment or are they just getting the facade of an actual treatment to see if people get better just based on if they thought they were poked or if they were actually poked. But according to this, I'm not sure why, but they think it's misleading to simply regard acupuncture as the same as placebo. And they think you should be cautious when using the term sham acupuncture in clinical investigations. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe sham acupuncture has some very small benefits. It's not completely useless. Maybe it does actually benefit you somehow in a way that's not simply placebo. I'm not sure exactly. Anyway, so back at this article. So I was kind of looking, and all of these different like things were saying, yeah, the acupuncture was more effective than no treatment and sham treatment, and was kind of like not on par with the regular pain drugs, but like helping out in a way that was helpful. And I was like, oh, okay, so that kind of makes it seem like acupuncture is effective. Done deal. It seems like it's legit to me. But then I realized that all of these are dealing with pain, acupuncture for pain. But acupuncture is not only for pain. There's a lot of people who use it for other illnesses as well, right? So this is the part what deals about conditions other than pain. So things like seasonal allergies, asthma. I looked into this one. So it seems like if you used acupuncture for asthma, it was associated with better quality of life compared to routine care alone. But it didn't seem like it actually improved lung function. So it helped out a little bit somehow, but it didn't improve your lung function. Or for depression, it seemed like it did seem to reduce depression a little bit, but it also wanted us to take this study with a grain of salt because the studies were of low or very low quality, which is a little bit surprising because there was a lot of participants. Why was the quality of the study so low? Or infertility, this one says that no difference was found between the acupuncture and sham acupuncture groups in rates of pregnancy or live birth. So it doesn't seem like it had an effect on infertility, according to this, which is like, I mean, understandable. It's not going to be, it's not like a magic cure-all. Like it definitely works with pain. If you have pain, I feel like getting poked with a needle would be better than having to take like a ton of drugs and then having to take 6 other drugs to control for the side effects of those first drugs. Do I want to get poked with a needle because I like got in a car accident and I had like super bad neck pain? Or do I want to take like 7 different drugs that are turning me into a zombie but helping me cope with the pain? I think I'm going to take getting stuck with a needle over that. But that's just me. Anyways, that's pretty much all I learned about acupuncture. Hope you had a good time. I'll catch you next time. Peace.